Welcome to our presentation exploring the impact of technology on workers and organisations. I'm George.
I'm Chris.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Mesa.
Throughout this video we will be assessing the impact of technology on workers and organisations. We aim to explore the effects of technology on modern work practices and impact on the home/work divide. We will try to link our own experiences and examples into the relevant theory throughout to help us explain our arguments. Grinton and Woolgar 1997 say that technology is central to modern life, and it is clearly something that we use every day of our life in various forms, whether at work or not. Technology has massively influenced organisations, and it is now of paramount importance that managers adopt new technology as it becomes available, in order to retain a cutting edge on competitors. Technology is of vital importance in completing work tasks, and can be of great use to managers in monitoring workers' output and acting as a form of control.
According to Grant 2013, the positive aspects of technology can be summarised as increased productivity, the ability to work flexibly and from different locations without the temporary restrictions of office-based hours, and in some cases reduced stress levels and greater well-being. The advantages of technology for organisations can therefore be said to improve communication, whether it be between worker to worker or worker to manager, as well as improving efficiency and customer satisfaction. Additionally, technology lowers costs as employees can be replaced by the technology, thus eliminating boundaries which might hinder the manner in which work is conducted.
The work of Karl Marx, and by extension Harry Braverman, explains how the capitalist industrial growth impacts the labour process. Marx theorised how the emergence of machinery and increasing automation removes the control of workers. Braverman focused on the emergent giant corporations and oligopolies. Work is described as becoming transformed from the utilisation of skills to a mindless machine-based activity. Although the presence of modern technology is not always as overbearing as described in the Marxist discourse, it still has an influence, as described by Burns, 1988. The notion of de-skilling and alienation are theorised to be brought about by emerging technologies. The idea that technology takes away power from the workers is still prevalent, as reflected in the case study. The impact of technology on an organisation is measured by an individual's constructed interpretation. The social and technological factors are interwoven, therefore it is important to understand the impact on the individual's private being. The ways in which people interact with, relate to and incorporate technology into their working lives is the key issue which is up for discussion. To do this, we'll be looking at technology in the context of teleworking, as this is a great example of how technology impacts the social life of the employee. As well as this, we will discuss our own personal experiences with technology to provide further evidence.
We will now look at one of our own personal experiences to help demonstrate the impact of technology in a working context. I work part-time at my local Tesco store, and technology greatly impacts my working life. I work on the checkouts where job roles are greatly influenced through technology. How much work we do and how quick we have to work is controlled by the speed of the checkout conveyor belt. We also have no room for our own interpretation of the job role. The till interface is very simplified and guides us through the transaction process by telling us what to do and in what order, so there is little skill involved. Aside from this, my time at the workplace is monitored by a clocking in system to check I am there when I'm supposed to be, and also my output in terms of items scanned through the checkout is also monitored. So technology is a great way for managers to keep an eye on us as workers and to check we are performing appropriately. This example simply shows how technology can influence workers in an organisation and how managers can use it as a form of monitoring and controlling workers.
In our personal experience, university is dictated by the utilisation of technology. Timetables, grades and enrolment of modules are all provided via technology. Additionally, as students, the use of technology has been present throughout our years of education, but especially at university, where technology is one of the primary channels to accessing educational materials and communication outlets. This being said, it is suggested by Hancock and Spicer, 2009, that university as an establishment is a social and material technology that produces knowledge and provides education. As such, at an organisational level of analysis, it is possible to see that different technologies are used by different departments and functions within the same university, thus providing social and functional means to technology.
In Sermon 2014, she explains how technology can impact workers so greatly that it removes the need for them in organisations. This is because technological advancements have removed the need for human labour. In 2014, the Telegraph reported that in the next 20 years, over 10 million jobs are at risk because of advancements in technology, and that 1 in 3 job roles will be eradicated. This is most prominent in the service sector, where there has been progressions in technology, creating more competent machinery and reducing the need for service employees. Instead, the labour is provided jointly by the machinery and the consumer. Some examples of this are in library and supermarket self-scanners, train and cinema ticket machines, and also airport self-check-ins.
As Sullivan 2003 argued, there are many different definitions of telework. The forms of teleworking are ever expanding and changing. Before defining what is telework, it's necessary to consider the situations and the contexts in which telework is applied. Increasingly, telework can be seen as working remotely using information and communication technology links. In addition, the opportunity to work remotely is now provided by many organizations alongside other flexible working options, which can lead to savings for organizations.
Although the work-home divide is increasingly indistinguishable, the examples of Barbara and Shirley given in the case study explain how there are symbolic rituals which protect against the complete abolishment of home trades when teleworking. Sermon says teleworkers can be seen to reproduce the division between work and home. It was meaningful to them to maintain this distinction. Working from home causes various difficulties, but this can be coped with by forming a clearer boundary between work and home, restoring familiar order to daily life. The example of Sally shows a clear distinction in work and home. She found that working from home increased the divide. There was no in-between zone, such as travelling to and from work. Barbara used the distinction of work from home life to form a clear boundary, whereas Shirley wouldn't allow herself to have a drink whilst working to maintain that boundary. The distinction between work and home is constructed by the individual and thus varies from person to person, as shown in this example. The technology enabled the same level of monitoring at home or in the office. This means that working from home keeps a level of control for the organisation. Using technology as a means of control can cause a sense of helplessness for the employee and links into the Marxist view of capitalism in that technology is used to exploit the worker.
I have a part-time job in a Chinese traveling company, and there are over 300 in-school university students who become its agents. Our job is to promote their tourism projects and submit customers' details via email for registration if someone wants to participate in the tour. The working time and space is flexible and depends on ourselves. In addition, we don't have to waste time to meet up with our managers, and we can just use communication tools and apps to contact with them, such as Skype and WeChat. In my opinion, teleworking can increase the job effectiveness, but it may lose control for managers because sometimes we select at our work. Technology has changed the nature of work and provided opportunities to work from multiple locations, including from home. Teleworking using technology is seen as a way for organizations to offer flexibility and consider the well-being of staff, including their work-life balance, while it's reducing costs and improving productivity. However, according to Grant 2030, the intensification of access to technology long-term, leading to long hours with little respite from work is some of the negative effects of the teleworking. Sitting behavior may increase with the temptation to work for longer hours in front of the computer and cause physical problems. So, teleworking may lead to the blurring of boundaries between work and home, but employees may be overworked if they are working at home.
We will now answer the following questions. So, do different types of workers use technology differently? Across most organisations, technology is used differently by different departments and functions. It is also clear that different job roles require different uses of technology. Line managers or supervisors would obviously be using alternative technology to those workers on the factory or shop floor. Age is also an important factor in determining individuals' usage and attitude towards technology. People who have grown up using new technology may be more likely to take up new working methods or incorporate technology into their working life. For example, younger workers may use iPads or smartphones in meetings or to organise their work, whilst older workers who are not used to this technology may still rely on handwritten notes and diaries. Ultimately, individual workers have their own interpretation, attitude and personal uses for technology. In the teleworking example, different individuals were shown to perceive the effects of technology differently, with one individual feeling that it benefited them by actually sharpening the divide between home and work. In contrast, others felt that it actually blurred the home-work divide, and they experienced discomfort towards this. It is thought that in most organisations, workers would have different attitudes and opinions towards the usage of technology, and at the end of the day it all comes down to their own individual interpretation.
Blauner, 1964, suggests that technology could offer employees more opportunities for skill development and control over their work. Is this your experience? This question links back into the study undertaken by Sermon and the interwoven nature of the individual and technology. To quote Sermon, technologies do not exist independently of human interpretation. Therefore, the effects of technology can be considered circumstantial. Technology in some ways limits the job role and the work available to the individual. This limits and prevents outstanding contributions. You can only do what the technology allows. For instance, you can't go on Facebook and YouTube on a work laptop. Another example is the interface in the till doesn't allow for certain functions, such as refunds. This restriction caused by technology is a limiting factor to the contribution of the employee. Linking in the advantages of technology as a learning tool. Using technology to learn extra skills on the job that would have been more difficult to achieve without technology is a positive. An example of this is the ease of access to learning materials in our studies as an undergraduate student. Clocking in is an example of the panopticon as described by Foucault. The fear of technology and control from management acts as an incentive to work harder as output is constantly being recorded. For example, the presence of a security camera would deter potential criminal activity. The mere presence of technology changes the nature of human behaviour. Using a personal example, when working as a barman in Revolution Bar, the amount of money taken per hour is monitored. At the end of a shift, all the takings from each individual are compared, with the employee who took the most winning a prize. This shows that the effects of technology in work are juxtaposed, used as both an incentive and for the fear of failure.
Would you say your use of technology is dictated by its functional or its social properties? Recently, our dominant use of technology derives from university, where it could be argued that both aspects, functional and social, dictate our use of technology. This is illustrated from the fact that the functional properties include the completion of assignments, the use of the KLE, email communications, and accessing information such as ebooks and journals. In addition, the social properties include keeping in contact with university members, as well as with peers through the use of social media. The sum of both of these aspects increase efficiency and ease of productivity. However, this use of technology could be said to be subjective to the individual, as other means of interacting with the university may be dictated and approached by either one or none of the properties of technology. Ultimately, technology has evolved over the last 50 years to become integral to both our lives and work.
Various examples have been discussed and have shown how technology impacts the way work is done, created, managed and controlled. In the example of my time at Tesco, technology controls and restricts my job role. I can only do what the till allows and I have no discretion on what I can do and when. Technology can also control the pace of work through conveyor belts or assembly lines. Lastly, it is used to monitor workers' time and output, and therefore is a great way for managers to retain worker compliance. We will not try to steal time or produce poor output, as we know the technology will catch us out. As said, technology is a huge part of working lives. It can limit the behaviour of the worker and be a way for managers to keep track on and govern workers.
Individual interpretation of personal boundaries and work environments dictates the context of technology at work. The work-life balance is certainly affected, but opinions towards it differ with job role, demographic and personal view. The overarching argument that is seen throughout is the individual interpretation of technology. The impact of technology and the attitude towards it differ from person to person. This is a summary of the references used throughout this presentation. Thank you for your time in watching this presentation.